Hello coders, welcome to my new video. So yesterday I was unable to upload a video on the problem of the day, and that was because of New Year celebration, and we broke our 14 days long streak. A new video in terms of YouTube shorts will be uploaded in this channel soon, where I will show how we spend our day. And welcome 2024. So coming back to the topic, we have the problem of the day, a smallest window containing 0, 1 and 2. So let's see the problem statement. So the problem statement is, given a string S considering the characters 0, 1 and 2, your task is to find the length of the smallest substring of that S that contains all three characters 0, 1 and 2. If no such substring exists, then return -1. So the problem statement is pretty much simple. We are given with a string S and we have to find the length of the smallest substring that contains all the characters 0, 1 and 2. If there is no substring present as such in the given string, then we will return -1. So let us understand this with an example. Our first example is this. So our problem expects us to return the length of the smallest substring that is present in this string, where it contains all the characters 0, 1 and 2. So let us check whether it contains, and then we will return the length if it contains. So in the first character of the string we got 1. So yeah, it contains 1, and then we got 0, and then we got 2 also. So it contains 0, 1 and 2, and it is a substring of a given string 1, 0, 2, 1, 2. Hence we will return the length of this substring, which is 3. Now let's see the next example to get the things more clear to us. According to the question, we will find the substring containing all the characters 0, 1 and 2. But in the given string we can see that there is no 0 present. So there is no possibility of a substring which will contain 3 of the characters 0, 1 and 2. If the original string doesn't contain 0, then how a substring can contain 0? So it is not possible, and hence we will return -1. Now we have discussed two examples. Let's see how we will approach to this problem. So as the problem asks to return the smallest length of a substring which contains three characters 0, 1 and 2 specifically. So let's take a variable res which will store the length of the substring, and we will initiate it with the maximum length possible of a substring. So a string itself is a substring of its own. So we will initiate result by the length of the string, original string. So if we take the first example, our length is 5. So we will initiate it by 5. Now let's declare 3 more characters which will store the position or the index of 0, 1, 2 in our given string. So let's say char 0, char 1 and char 2. So these three will contain the position of each character 0, 1, 2 in char 0, char 1, char 2 respectively. At first, let us initiate it by -1 and -1. So at first the value of these indexes are -1. Then we will iterate in our given string. The given string is, for example, 10212. Now we will iterate through each character of the given string, and if we encounter a character 0, 1 or 2, we will update its position respectively in our declared variables. So let's start iteration. In the first iteration we will encounter 1. So we will update the index value of char 1 with the current index of I, that is 0. Now as our problem asks us to return the minimum length of a substring we found where all three characters are present, we have to calculate the length of the new substring. For that, we will take the minimum value of the current result length and the length of our substring which we have created. So let's see how we will do that. At first, we will update our result with the minimum value between the current result and the length of the new substring which we will create. So how to calculate the length of the new substring? At first, we have to subtract the current index, that is I or 0 in our case. We will subtract I from the first position where we have encountered 0, 1 or 2 in our given string. So to find the first occurrence of one of these characters, we have to use the minimum function again, where we will pass the position of 0, 1 and 2. So the position of 0 is stored in char 0, and now the minimum between 1 and 2. So again we will call a min function and pass position of 1 and position of 2. The first min will compare between the position of 1 and 2 character in our given string. Whichever will be the minimum between the two, it will pass the value, and that value will be compared with the index of 0 which has occurred first time in our string. Then we will again calculate the minimum between the two, and it will give the first occurrence of the character among 0, 1 and 2. So this is how we find the length of a string, right? We first subtract the last position of a substring with the first position of the substring, and then we will add it by 1. So let's see an example. Like if the string is encoder, so what will be the length of the substring coder? This one. How to find the length of coder? We will subtract the last index by the first index and add 1 to it. So let's see. Here R is at 6 and C is at 0, 1, 2. So we will get 4, and then we will add 1 to it. We will get 5. And if you check the length of the coder, it is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So this is how we calculate the length. We will subtract the maximum position with the minimum position or the first position of a string, and then we will subtract them and add it with 1. Thus we have done this. We have subtracted the maximum position I minus the minimum position where any of our character 0, 1 or 2 has occurred, and then at last we will add it by 1. So plus 1. So this is how we will update our minimum length of a substring, and at last we will return our value. And for the first condition, where we have to check whether the substring contains 0, 1 and 2 or not, we will simply check whether char 0 or char 1 or char 2, whether these are equals to -1 or not. We will simply check. If they are not -1, that means the values are updated, and thus we have got a substring which contains 0, 1 and 2, and ultimately we will return the result or the length of that substring. So this was our logic. Now let's see how we will implement this in our code. So without wasting our time, let's get into the code. So as we have discussed, let's take an variable int result which will store the maximum possible length of a substring, that is the length of the string itself. So we will store s dot length in the result variable, and then we will store the index values of 0, 1, 2 characters in 3 respective variables. So for that we will declare 3 variables. Let's say int char 0, which will be initiated by -1, char 1, the position is -1, and lastly char 2 will be also initiated by -1. Now we are ready with our variables. We have to just iterate, check our two condition, and return our final result. So let's start iterating from the 0th index of our given string until the length of the string, that is s.length, and then we will increase every time it by 1. Now we have to check whether the current position, that is s.char at I, is equals to 0 or not. We have to check, and if this is true, then we have to update our char 0 value, which stores the position of 0 character. So it will be updated by I. And if the character is 1, then also we have to update our value of char 1. So let's write the condition else if s dot char at I is equals to 1, then we will update the value of char 1 with the current index value. And lastly, if it is 2 or anything else also, we will update our char 2 with the current index. So by this we will be getting our updated position of 0, 1, 2 character in a given substring. And now, as we have discussed, we have to check two conditions. First, whether the positions are updated or not from -1. So if char 0 not equals -1 and char 1 also not equals to -1, and lastly char 2 not equals to -1. If this is true, that means we have got updated values or positions of those characters. In that case, we have to update our flag with true. So we got a substring, right? In this case, we have to update our length of the substring because we need the minimum length. So res will be equals to, as we have discussed already, math.min, and we will get our minimum length of a substring. So after the last iteration, we will be getting our updated result length, and simply we will check if the flag is true or false. If it is false, that means the default value of these three variables has never changed, and so we didn't find any character that is 0, 1 or 2 in our given string. So let's check if flag. That means if flag is true. If it is true, then we will simply return the length which is stored in a res variable, and if it is not true, then we will simply return -1 as our problem has asked. So we have used a flag to check whether the indexes are updated or not. So we have to initialize it with boolean flag is equals to false by default. And if the positions are updated, we will get a true, and hence we will return an updated result. That is the smallest length or the minimum length of a substring. So this is all about the code, and the logic is also discussed very deeply in the first part of the video. And now let's compile and run. So the code is running fine. Let's submit our code. So our code has successfully passed all the given test cases. And that's all for this video. If you have learned something new, please make sure you like the video, share the video with your friends and subscribe. Please support our channel for daily such contents, and let's together complete our 100-day coding challenge easily.